Get out. Paying mortgage doesn't make you blood. Those were the first words my father spoke to me that night. No hello, no thank you, not even a glance of acknowledgement, just that sentence, sharp and cold enough to freeze every muscle in my body. It was Thanksgiving. The table was set beautifully. Gold-trimmed plates, crystal glasses, perfectly folded linen napkins. Everything carefully curated for photos my mother would later post online with captions like, "Family is everything." Funny how pictures could lie so easily. My mother didn't even look at me when she followed his words with a whisper sharp enough to cut skin. "You're only jealous of your sister's success." My sister, Olivia, the golden child, sitting across from me with her glossy hair, designer clothes, perfect teeth, and the same smug expression she'd worn since high school. She twirled her wine glass slowly, pretending she wasn't listening, but her smirk gave her away. She loved this. I stared at all of them, and for the first time in years, I didn't shrink. I didn't apologize. I didn't calm the tension they created. I spoke. Then let her pay the $8,500, utilities, groceries, and credit cards. Silence. Thick, choking silence. Olivia's smirk vanished. My father slammed his fork down so hard gravy splattered across the tablecloth, but I didn't flinch. For once, they did. My voice didn't shake like it usually did. It was steady, even, controlled, almost frighteningly calm. "I'm done," I said, pushing my chair back slowly. The legs dragged across the hardwood floor, loud and deliberate, like a warning. If I'm not family, then neither is my wallet. My mother finally met my eyes, her face pale. "Kyra, don't." "No," I cut her off. "Not this time." And I walked out. The cold November air hit me like a slap, but it wasn't nearly as painful as the truth I had finally allowed myself to face. I had never been loved for who I was, only for what I paid. For 5 years straight, every time they fell behind on mortgage payments, I covered it. When utilities hit red notice, I handled it. When groceries ran short, when the credit cards maxed out, when Olivia needed money for another business course or luxury retreat, it was always me. Not because I was the eldest, not because they asked with kindness, not even because they were struggling, but because they decided I owed them. "You don't have kids, Kyra. What do you need money for, Kyra? You're lucky to be able to help." Lucky. I used to believe that word. I used to believe them. I used to believe that family meant sacrifice and loyalty, no matter how uneven the scale was. But tonight, something inside me snapped. And once something snaps, it doesn't go back to the way it was. That night, after I left the house, I sat in my car, not crying, but thinking. My hands hovered over my phone for only a second before I opened every account I paid on their behalf. Mortgage? Canceled. Utilities? Canceled. Groceries auto orders? Canceled. Credit cards? Locked, frozen, reported for unauthorized access. At 2:13 a.m., the final notification popped up. All linked services have been disabled. It felt like breathing for the first time after years underwater. The next morning, I woke up to my phone vibrating nonstop. 23 missed calls. Then 48. Then 81. By noon, it reached triple digits. I didn't answer a single one. At 4:27 p.m., my doorbell rang. Once. Twice. Then pounding. I looked through the peephole. Police. Behind them, my mother, crying. My father, furious. My sister, begging, mascara streaked down her cheeks like melting paint. That should have broken me. It used to. But instead, I felt nothing but cold clarity. Because finally, after years of being the obedient daughter, the invisible provider, the emotional punching bag, I understood the truth. Love proves itself through actions, not expectation. And theirs had proven something very different. I opened the door, not wide, just enough to see their faces clearly. "Kyra," my mother sobbed, "please, we need to talk." My father's jaw tightened. "You've made your point," he growled. "Now stop being dramatic and fix this." Olivia stepped forward, voice cracking. "Please, I can't live without electricity." My lips curled, not into a smile, but something colder. Good, I whispered, because now you'll finally learn what I did long ago. Their eyes widened, waiting. I met each one of their stares, my voice steady, deadly steady. People don't appreciate what they never have to earn. And then, I did it. At last. I closed the door. And this time, I didn't look back. The silence after the door shut was almost louder than their knocking. I stood there for a moment, hands still on the knob, breathing deeply, not shaky, not emotional, just steady. For the first time in years, I felt in control. But peace never lasts long in a family built on entitlement. Within an hour, the text changed tone, from begging to guilt to venom. Mom, we raised you. This is how you repay us? Dad, you're acting immature. Fix the accounts now. Olivia, Kyra, please. The fridge doesn't work. My food is spoiling. Then another. Olivia, what am I supposed to do? I have a meeting tomorrow and no hot water. I stared at the screen, almost stunned by how predictable they were. Not one message asking if I was okay. Not one apology. Just panic, fear, demands. By evening, word had already spread through the family. Because drama travels faster than truth. Aunt Linda texted, "Your mom said you attacked her and cut off the house out of revenge? Is that true?" I didn't respond. Uncle Greg left a voicemail. "Kid, whatever happened, family works things out. Call your father." I deleted it without finishing. Then came the message that made something inside me shift permanently. Grandma, my mother's mother, 92, soft-spoken, always neutral. Her text was short. Finally. That was it. No lecture, no confusion, no sides. Just that one word. For the first time that day, I felt my throat tighten. Not with regret, but with validation. Someone finally saw it. The next morning, I woke to heavy knocking again. Not the frantic banging from before. This time it was slow, deliberate. Authority. I opened the door to find the police officer from the day before, but without my family behind him. "Miss Parker?" he asked. "Yes. We received another complaint. Your parents claim you illegally shut off housing essentials." I held his stare, calm, prepared. "I own the accounts," I said. "Everything is in my name because they asked me to pay temporarily 5 years ago. They never transferred anything back." He blinked. "So the utilities are legally yours?" "Yes, I have every bill and payment history if you need proof." He sighed, not annoyed with me, but with the situation. "I figured. Your father wasn't helpful." His voice dropped slightly. "They don't seem to understand legal responsibility." "That's been the pattern," I said quietly. He nodded once, pulled a small card from his pocket, and handed it to me. "If they show up again or threaten you, call this number. Document everything." "Thank you." As he left, I shut the door and leaned back against it. This wasn't just family tension anymore. This was a boundary war. By day 3, consequences were finally settling in. And my family did what people like them always do when the real world gives them consequences. They tried to spin a new narrative. Mom called crying. Again. "Kyra, please. I didn't mean what I said. Your father was just stressed. Olivia's been going through a lot. We didn't mean to hurt you." It would have worked once. Not anymore. Then Olivia texted. "Okay, fine. I'm sorry. Can we talk?" 5 minutes later. "Actually, you should apologize too. You embarrassed us and overreacted." There it was. The truth under the fake apology. I put my phone down. There was nothing left to say. 3 days after Thanksgiving, something happened that forced everything into a new direction. I was leaving work when my coworker and friend, Marcus, saw my expression and stopped me. "You okay?" he asked. I hesitated. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I wasn't used to someone actually caring. "It's family stuff," I finally said. "Ugly. Long overdue." He nodded knowingly. "Family or hostage situation?" I huffed out a humorless laugh. Honestly, hard to tell. He didn't pry further. Instead, he said something that stuck with me. "People don't get angry when you set boundaries. They get angry when you stop letting them control you." I froze. Because that sentence, simple as it was, summed up everything. I wasn't the villain. I wasn't cruel. I was just finally done. That night, as I sat in my apartment eating leftover takeout, another text came in, one that stopped me mid-bite. Dad. We spoke to Olivia's lawyer. Since you financially contributed without documented agreement, it could be considered a gift. You owe us nothing back, but you also can't cut us off. My blood ran cold. A lawyer. They weren't just panicking now, they were planning. And that's when I realized this was no longer about money. It was about control. And they were about to learn what life looked like when they no longer held any. I stared at the message from my father for a long time, not because I didn't understand it, but because I understood it perfectly. They spoke to Olivia's lawyer, not a mediator, not a therapist, not even a priest, which my mother usually turned to when she wanted emotional leverage. No, they skipped straight to legal threats. For years, I had known they cared more about reputation and control than love, but seeing them ready to weaponize the law against their own daughter, that confirmed everything. I didn't respond. I didn't cry. I didn't panic. Instead, I took a slow breath and walked to my desk drawer, where the folder had been waiting for months. A folder labeled simply, documentation, bank statements, transfer records, text messages requesting money, proof the mortgage and utilities were in my name only, screenshots where they called it temporary support, 5 years of evidence I never thought I would need, but somewhere deep down, I always suspected I might. Not because I planned to fight them, but because experience had taught me one painful truth. When someone sees you as a resource, not a person, you eventually become disposable. The next morning, I took the day off from work. Not because I was overwhelmed, but because it was time to stop reacting and start acting. I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer, a family and financial attorney, not a defense attorney, not a criminal lawyer. The difference mattered. Her name was Alex Monroe, calm-eyed, mid-40s. The kind of person who seemed almost immune to chaos. After reviewing my documents silently for over 15 minutes, she finally looked up. Well, she said, leaning back in her chair, your family made a mistake. What mistake? I asked. They assumed emotional manipulation counted as legal agreement. It doesn't. She tapped the mortgage statement. You own the accounts. You hold the financial responsibility. You never signed anything stating these payments were gifts. She paused, which means you are not obligated to continue them. I released a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. But, she added, and the word hit harder than expected, we need to prepare. For what? People like this don't let go quietly. If they already contacted a lawyer, they're exploring strategies to corner you, legally or emotionally. I nodded slowly. I know how they work. She folded her hands. So here's what we'll do. First, we file a cease and desist letter. No more harassment, no more showing up at your home, no more threats. She lifted another document. Second, we send an invoice. My eyebrows lifted. Invoice? Every payment you made, itemized. Mortgage contributions, utilities, credit cards, loans, repairs, groceries, subscriptions. She gave a small, calm smile. If they want to treat it like a financial dispute, then we make it one. On paper. Something inside me shifted. Not anger, not revenge. Something colder. Justice. By the time I left her office, my phone had 27 new messages. I didn't read them. Instead, I did something almost painfully ordinary. I drove to a home improvement store. For years, my money had gone to maintaining their comfort. Today, I bought things for my life. Fresh bedding. A real dining table, not a second-hand one. A plant I didn't need but wanted. Something small but symbolic. A beginning. That night, as I assembled the table in my apartment, my phone began ringing again. Same name. Same persistence. Dad. This time, I answered, but I put the call on speaker and hit record. Kyra. His voice was controlled, rehearsed. We need to put this ugliness behind us. Your sister is struggling. We're family. Family? I repeated softly. Does family throw out the child who pays the bills? Does family send police because the money stopped? His tone sharpened. You're twisting things. No, I said, calm and steady. For once, I'm naming them. Silence. Then he tried the oldest weapon in his arsenal. Guilt. You've always been dramatic, sensitive. You take everything too personally. A pause. Come home, apologize, we'll fix this. Once, that sentence would have broken me. Now? It only clarified who he truly was. No, I said, I'm not coming back. His voice snapped like a whip. If you go through with this, we're cutting you off. And that was the moment I finally laughed. Not hysterical, not angry. Just honest. You can't cut off what you never gave. Before he could respond, I ended the call. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. That night, lying in my freshly made bed, the weight of everything finally settled. Not as fear, but as freedom. I wasn't just breaking a pattern. I was ending a generational script, one written long before I ever existed. And I knew something now with absolute clarity. Sometimes family isn't who shares your blood. It's who respects your boundaries. 1 week later, the cease and desist letter and invoice were officially sent. I expected chaos. I didn't expect silence. No calls. No texts. No surprise visits. Just nothing. At first, it felt eerie, like the calm before a storm. Part of me kept waiting for the next blow, the next emotional grenade, the next attempt at control. But instead, the quiet stretched longer, 3 days, then 5. Then, exactly a week later, the silence finally broke. Not from my parents, but from someone I never expected. My Aunt Caroline. She called once. I let it ring. Then she texted, "Please pick up, it's important." I debated ignoring it, until she sent another message. "It's about Olivia." That got my attention. I answered. Her voice was shaky, rushed, like someone speaking before courage ran out. "Kyra, sweetheart, I'm sorry to involve myself, but you need to know what's really going on." My stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" She exhaled. "Your parents didn't want anyone to know, but Olivia didn't become successful the way they claim." I didn't speak. She continued. "She lost her job 6 months ago, fired, apparently for misusing company funds. She's been living off loans and credit cards ever since." I swallowed hard. "And my parents knew?" "Oh," she said bitterly. "They didn't just know. They funded the lies. They helped her hide it. They told everyone she was building her own business, traveling for work, taking executive training courses." I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course, the woman with luxury vacations, designer clothes, and motivational CEO mindset posts wasn't actually successful. She was drowning. And I had been paying to keep her fantasy afloat. My aunt's voice softened. "Your father told us you were being selfish, but after seeing the invoice you sent, some of us realized what was really happening." I opened my eyes. "What invoice?" She hesitated. "Your father forwarded it. He thought it would make you look bad." A humorless laugh escaped me. And instead, it made him look irresponsible, manipulative, cruel. There was a long pause. Then she said something that hit me deeper than I expected. "You didn't break this family, Kyra. You finally stopped letting them break you." My throat tightened, not because her words hurt, but because they healed something I didn't know was still bleeding. The calls started again the next day. Not from my parents, but from relatives. Some called quietly, sympathetically. Some called angry, accusing me of airing family business, like laundry hung in public. But the worst call came from Olivia. She didn't cry, not at first. Instead, she laughed, a hollow, hysterical sound. "So this is what you wanted?" she snapped. "For everyone to know I'm not the perfect one?" "No," I said. "I wanted honesty. You humiliated me. You did that yourself." Her breathing grew uneven. "You don't get it," she whispered. "They never looked at me the way they looked at you. Even when you were paying everything, they still talked about how responsible you were, how you always had your life together." I hated it. Something inside me cracked. Not sympathy, but understanding. Jealousy. She wasn't the golden child because she earned it. She was the golden child because she demanded it. And my parents enabled her because confronting the truth was harder than pretending. Olivia, I said quietly, none of this would have happened if you asked for help instead of entitlement. Her voice broke. I didn't know how. Silence. For the first time, she sounded human. But understanding doesn't erase consequences. I'm not coming back into that role, I said firmly. Not for you, not for them, not ever again. She sniffed. So that's it? You're done with us? No, I corrected softly. I'm done being used. Her next words were almost a whisper. I don't know how to live without someone fixing things for me. For a moment, I almost softened. Almost. There's a word for what you need, I said gently. What? Accountability. She didn't respond. Then, quietly, barely audible, she hung up. That night, as I sat in my new dining chair, eating dinner alone in peace, I thought about something my lawyer had said during our first meeting. Sometimes the people you love won't heal because their comfort comes from your suffering. And now, watching everything unfold, I finally understood. My family didn't need another financial bailout. They needed consequences. Maybe for the first time in their lives. And I was done protecting them from them. 2 weeks passed. 2 weeks of silence, whispers circulating through extended family, and my parents scrambling to regain control of a situation they no longer owned. By then, the cease and desist letter had been acknowledged. The invoice had been ignored, predictably, and legally, there was nothing left for them to argue without proof or documentation. What I didn't expect was the shift. Silence wasn't peace. Silence was plotting. On a rainy Wednesday morning, while I was leaving my apartment for work, I saw her. My mother, standing at the bottom of the stairwell, soaked from the rain, not with an umbrella, not with pride, just desperation. For a moment, we just stared at each other. No greetings. No forced warmth. Just two people who finally saw each other clearly, not as mother and daughter, but as woman and woman. Kyra, she breathed, voice trembling. Please, can we talk? Part of me wanted to walk past her. Part of me wanted to slam the door and pretend she wasn't there. But another part, smaller, quieter, knew running wasn't strength. So I nodded. We sat in my apartment. I brought her a towel. She didn't take off her coat. She didn't even sit fully in the chair, just perched, stiff, like she didn't know how to exist without control. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she finally spoke. When your father and I had children, she whispered, we promised ourselves we would give you a better life than we had. My throat tightened, not from emotion, but from caution. I'd learned these openings were rarely confession. They were set up. But somewhere along the way, she continued, eyes fixed on her trembling hands, we began to believe you owed us for that. My chest went still. It wasn't an apology, not yet, but it was the closest she had ever been to honesty. She looked up, really looked at me. You were always independent, always steady. We never worried about you. Her voice cracked. So we leaned on you, and then we leaned harder, and eventually, you expected it. I finished quietly. She nodded. And Olivia, I added, expected it more than anyone. Her silence confirmed it. She told me, I said. She admitted she never learned how to survive without someone protecting her. My mother closed her eyes as if the words physically hurt. That's our fault, she whispered. We told her she was special. We made her fragile. And I was what? I asked. Convenient? No, she whispered. Reliable. And somehow, that word cut deeper. Reliable wasn't love. Reliable was function. Reliable was replaceable. Reliable was unseen. I swallowed. So why are you here? I asked. She finally met my eyes. Because your father is furious. Because your sister is scared. Because everything we built was held together by you, and without you, we don't know how to function. I exhaled slowly. That's not my responsibility. I know, she whispered, but we don't know how to fix this. There it was. The truth behind all of it. They weren't asking for forgiveness. They were asking for rescue. Again. No, I said softly. Not this time. Her face crumpled. Not angry. not manipulative. Grief. Pure grief. Not for losing me, but for losing control. Kyra, she whispered, we don't have money to keep the house. The mortgage payment is already late. I nodded. I expected that. So, will you help us? Her voice was barely audible. I leaned forward. Not cold, not cruel, just honest. I will not pay for your life, I said. I will not rebuild what you refuse to maintain, but I won't leave you homeless either. She blinked, surprised, not by generosity, but by boundaries. If you're willing, I continued, I'll help you find a financial advisor. I'll help you downsize. I'll help you get stability, without relying on me as the source. Tears filled her eyes, slow, quiet ones. Not the dramatic, guilt-driven cries I grew up with. Real tears. What about Olivia? She whispered. My answer was immediate. She needs consequences. My mother lowered her head. I don't know if she can handle that. She survived everyone enabling her, I said gently. She'll learn to survive responsibility. For the first time since this began, she nodded. Not in agreement, but in understanding. She stood slowly from the chair. Before she left, she hesitated, then spoke one final sentence. You're the daughter we should have been proud of. I didn't cry, but something inside me unlatched, softly, quietly. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Just release. She left without asking for more, without begging, without playing victim, and as the door clicked shut behind her, I finally understood the truth. Sometimes healing doesn't come from winning the fight. Sometimes healing comes from refusing to continue it. 2 months passed. Not suddenly peaceful, not magically healed, but steady, like the slow return of oxygen after years of breathing too shallow. During those weeks, everything changed. Not dramatically, not like a movie, but in small, almost invisible shifts. My father stopped calling. Olivia stopped posting pictures of business success and luxury brunches. And my mother, slowly, cautiously, began rebuilding a life that wasn't constructed on denial. The financial advisor I helped her contact guided them through selling the house. It wasn't graceful. My father fought every step, clinging to status like a lifeline, but numbers don't bend for pride. Eventually, the house went on the market. The first time I drove past it afterward, I expected nostalgia. I expected regret. Instead, I felt nothing. Not cold. Not cruel. Just free. One Saturday morning, as I made coffee in my apartment, I received an unexpected text. From Olivia. I moved. A picture followed, nothing glamorous. A small one-bedroom apartment, boxes stacked, no furniture except a mattress on the floor. Then another message. It's not much, but it's mine. I read the message twice. Then she sent one more. I applied for a job, a real one. Interview next week. For the first time in my life, her words didn't sound like competition, or entitlement, or performance. They sounded like beginning. I didn't respond immediately. I didn't rush to comfort or validate her. Instead, after a few minutes, I sent something simple. Good. I hope you get it. No emojis, no lengthy explanation. Just acknowledgement. Her reply came 10 minutes later. Thank you, and I'm sorry, for everything. I stared at the screen, letting the meaning settle, not as erasure of the past, but as evidence of change. This time, my response was honest. I know, and I'm learning to let go. A few days later, I received another message, this time from my mom. We sold the house, moving next week. I typed back, I hope this gives you a fresh start. Her reply came after a pause. It will. And, Kira, your boundaries saved us more than your money ever did. I didn't expect the tears that came then, but they weren't the shaking, drowning kind. They were release. The legal invoice was never paid. There was no dramatic repayment or sudden moral awakening, but something better happened. They stopped expecting. They stopped demanding. They stopped taking. And that, more than any check, was closure. 3 months later, on a quiet Sunday evening, I found myself walking through a park. Not because I needed space, but because movement finally felt like something other than escape. Families passed by. Couples walked dogs. A little girl fed ducks while her mom filmed on her phone. Normal things. Ordinary things. Things I used to envy without realizing why. Halfway down the path, someone said my name. I turned. My father stood there. Older. Smaller. Chest no longer puffed with authority, just exhaustion. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he walked toward me slowly, as if unsure whether he was allowed. Kyra. My name wasn't sharp this time. It wasn't command or accusation. Just my name. I didn't come to ask for anything, he said. I just wanted to say something. I waited. He swallowed hard, eyes fixed not on me, but on the lake behind me. I thought being a father meant being respected, he murmured. But somewhere along the way, I forgot respect is earned, not owed. Silence. Then, softly, almost fragile. I'm sorry. The world didn't shift. No dramatic soundtrack played. No hug happened. But something heavy inside me finally loosened. I don't know what our relationship will look like, I said honestly. I don't either, he replied, but maybe we can start with honesty. For the first time, I nodded. Not as daughter to father, but as one adult to another. Maybe we can. He didn't stay long. He didn't ask for closure. He didn't try to rewrite history. He simply walked away, quiet, humbled, changed. And this time, I wasn't left shattered. I was left whole. When I returned home, I stood at the doorway of my apartment, the home I paid for, the life I built, the peace I earned, and I finally understood. Revenge isn't always destruction. Sometimes, revenge is becoming someone they can no longer manipulate, diminish, or own. Sometimes, revenge is healing. And sometimes, revenge is simply walking forward, without them dragging behind. I closed my door. And for the first time in my life, it felt like a beginning.